This is episode 59 with Dan Maher.
Welcome to Spot On Insurance. Join us each week as we speak to insurance professionals, attorneys, regulators, and compliance specialists on topics ranging from improving your agency to staying on the right side of the law. Subscribe and stay informed on the effects of new trends and disruptive emerging technologies on your businesses and your industry.
Welcome to the Spot On Insurance podcast. I'm Ted Tavares.
And I'm Arlene Tavares.
Our guest, Dan Maher, is the Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer of the Excess Line Association of New York, ALANY. The association is a statutorily created industry advisory association responsible for facilitating and encouraging compliance with New York's excess line law. Dan is also an attorney licensed to practice in the states of New Jersey and New York and a number of federal courts. Prior to joining ALANY in 1997, he was Senior Vice President and General Counsel with Lancer Insurance Company for 15 years. Dan is a registered lobbyist in New York State and has influenced a number of changes to the New York State insurance law. He holds the Professional Insurance Designation Associate in Surplus Lines Insurance, ASLI, and is a frequent speaker on current issues affecting the property and casualty insurance industry. Dan, thank you for joining us on Spot On Insurance.
It's my pleasure. It's nice to talk to you, and it was good to see you last week.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to spend time with you and our friends at the Texas Surplus Lines Law Group.
Yeah. So Dan, first of all, in the surplus lines market, 2017 was a record year for many states. Would love to hear your overview of the state of the surplus lines market in New York for 2017 and also how it's panning out for 2018.
Thank you. I think that what is really interesting is we keep thinking the market's going to flatten out, and we've had literally 5 straight years of record transaction and premium volume, culminated in the end of year 2017 with nearly $4 billion of premium processed and over 325,000 transactions. And we keep thinking that is going to moderate, but we have a very strong economy, and we're up in single digits for the first quarter of 2018 also. I think that if you could point to one single largest factor, you'd have to look at our construction industry because that's $1.2 billion of premium just on construction risks alone. And I was noting recently that the premium that we processed in the first month of 2018 was approximately the same amount of premium we processed in the year 1997 when I first arrived here. So, we're doing 12 times the amount of premium since I arrived. Granted, that was a long time ago. I'm not even going to mention the year.
Dan, I know that you've led an interesting life. So tell us your story.
Well, I guess it could be summed up in, I guess I was a failed lifeguard.
Oh, boy.
Oh, this is going to be good.
When I thought I knew a lot less about things, I was a lifeguard and a bartender. That's how I helped put myself through college and law school. But for some reason, I thought that I wanted to be a lawyer, which actually I really did. I have to be sincere about that. And I moved on from there. But there are times when I think to myself, why did I ever pull my bare feet out of the sand?
Yeah. Now we just want to bury our head in the sand sometimes.
That is true too. But I've had a very rewarding career in the insurance industry. I started out with a law firm, and shortly thereafter got the opportunity to go in-house to a group of reinsurance brokers that ultimately evolved into the Lancer Insurance Group. And I learned an incredible amount about insurance in that process, both the easy way and the hard way. And that led me to the opportunity to head up ALANY back in 1997. And it's been a great career for me. I don't look back and think in any way that I regret what I did career-wise. Not too many people are as lucky as I am in terms of finding a career position that fit like a glove.
Right.
That's right. And talking about career positions, I think Ted and I also feel so fortunate that we are in this industry. Last week, we got to hang out with you and a bunch of our friends at the Surplus Lines Law Group spring meeting, which was hosted by the folks at the Surplus Lines Stamping Office of Texas. And it was just so great. You know, we're like amongst friends and we're talking about exciting things that are happening in our insurance industry. And I got to talk to a lot of people that are friends of ours from the East Coast. And I was telling them about the upcoming Surplus Lines and Reinsurance Forum and telling them that I look forward to seeing them. Some of them hadn't heard of it, some of them had. And so all three of us decided, hey, let's just jump on one of the Spot On Insurance podcasts to make sure that the word is getting out there and talk about the incredible agenda that not only has Elaney put together, but in collaboration with the Insurance Federation of New York and Baker and McKenzie. So I am anxious to hear you talk about the program and the venue. So take it from here.
Well, that's a great intro, because one of the things we have decided and are clearly trying to do at Elaney is more collaborative work with other professional associations. You mentioned the law group last week, and I can say that one of the greatest things about our business is the relationships that you build in the industry. You know, your friends, your colleagues, you know, people you respect for their unique knowledge, and spreading that to people that are coming into the business, trying to help them get the benefit of the experience, which will, you know, elevate everybody's game, is part of the reason we're doing more collaborative work with IFNI, for instance, and you mentioned Baker and McKenzie, and also some of the committees of the American Bar Association are involved with this particular program. And the reason that we thought this was a good program is there are a lot of things happening in our marketplace. While New York is still a hub for what you would think of as more traditional surplus lines risks, we clearly are starting to see the question of insurtech. How do we react to that? Whether it's the use of big data, artificial intelligence, or, you know, on-demand use-based insurance pricing on the web, products that are going to be sold online, and how can we do that in the surplus lines world without running afoul of the law? Emerging risk. There's so many new things that we're talking about in the way of emerging risks, and we're gonna get involved in that discussion at this May 16th program. And that's just our panel. Of course, there's a reinsurance panel, and we have a regulators panel. So we have a number of people that, you know, that represent a substantial amount of talent. So I'll just sit there and be quiet.
Well, I know some of the challenges that we face in the surplus lines market is now the ability to get ahead onto the consumer so quickly through apps. And of course, we all know that in the surplus lines market, the broker has to get the declinations, and that is one of the issues I know that you and other regulators around the country are probably brainstorming on. How do we get to meeting the technology that's out there, right?
It's really, how do we do this and overcome some of the older laws and regs, which really never contemplated what we're seeing today in terms of on-demand, online, risk-based priced products, right? Because they run afoul in the surplus lines world in some cases of some of these laws. So part of this forum is to discuss what those barriers are, where you may have workarounds because you can do some of this legitimately without running afoul of the law, and also what are the showstoppers and what do we do about that? What do we do about that? We need to convince regulators and legislators that we can have a consumer protected surplus lines market and still engage in some of this high-tech process of delivering product.
You know, some of the insured techs that we've had on our podcast and will be on in future podcasts, we actually ask them which are the states that they have a hard time with, and they did name New York as one of them. So this is really good to hear that you're on this and you're trying to solve this problem, because that'll bring all this new technology to New York in the future.
We want to see that, but we also realize New York will move much more judiciously than other states might. Some states embrace these changes more quickly.
Right.
You know, for instance, New York was, I think, one of the 40 some odd states, was 40 something in passing a Uber, Lyft type transportation network company law. And we were happy to see they did that. Begrudgingly, surplus lines was included, which was a problem. And they did. I think we had support at the legislative and governor's office. The regulators were less enthused about that, and they wrote a very difficult regulation for that business. So we have our work cut out for us.
Dan, when insurtechs come your way, is your job bringing this to light to the people in the legislature and trying to get this thing passed? So you're an advocate for them?
The answer is yes. We do believe that we're an advocate for this end of the market. We're not trying to do anything that would create any kind of head-to-head competition between the admitted market and the surplus lines market, but we do try to educate our legislators and regulators respectfully that we believe these markets are very segmented, that the E&S market doesn't really want to compete with the admitted market. We think we have a good statistical base that shows that. And we're working on a couple of bills in Albany right now to expand what surplus lines insurers can do. We're trying to do a small amendment to help bring the E&S market to a greater degree into the medical malpractice world here, because there are some barriers. We're trying to create the ability of insurers to write punitive damage insurance in New York. It's completely barred in New York right now. And we have insurers that are trying to sell it. We have insureds that want to buy it, and they go to Bermuda to buy it. We're here to try to say, can't we, don't we think we have the skills to protect consumers and regulate that in an appropriate way, and to permit it, not to require it, but to permit it.
So do you see all of these changes that are taking place? Will you see that there are more and more states that are adopting, if they don't already have an export list, that they're going to start expanding their export list or having a go-to export list?
We have a fairly robust export list, which is good, and a number of states do. But one of the problems you have with that, and this is something wholesale brokers say to me, I have retailers that might do one, let's say, construction risk. That's on the export list. They might do 3 homeowners risks. That's not on the export list. If I tell them they don't have to have declinations for the construction risk, a lot of times they'll submit the affidavit to me without declinations where they need to have them. So there's a confusion there. So the export list helps in some cases, but it's not as, its utilization is not as great as it ought to be. One of the things I hope to do in the future is to amend the law to allow wholesale transactions where a retail broker has already exhausted his markets, because retail brokers don't go to the wholesaler because they love splitting their commission. That's just one example of why a retailer will go to wholesalers only when they need them. But why are we making people jump through these reporting hoops when in fact the retailer, just by the virtue of going to a wholesaler, means he's got trouble trying to find the right market for that, right market or right product for a given coverage. So we'd like to see wholesale transactions on the commercial line side, not necessarily personal lines, be on the export list. That would actually move the needle a great deal in New York towards what other states are already leaning towards, because we have 5 states that have repealed, either in total or at least for commercial lines, the diligent effort requirement completely.
Spot On is sponsored by Insurance Licensing Services of America. Need help with corporate name changes, annual returns, or surplus lines tax filings? Feeling overwhelmed? If you're looking for experts in regulatory compliance, you've come to the right place. ILSA provides the industry with over 50 services. To learn more about the company and how they can help, visit ilsainc.com.
So I know we see a lot of this emerging technology taking place in personal lines, and there's still a lot in development for commercial lines. One of the things, let's say, for instance, a broker specializes in aviation insurance. That's something that's not going to change for a while. But I'm sure that they're working on the technology to be able to bring that coverage in a more streamlined fashion. So with that, do you see the emergence of more risk purchasing groups where, now you kind of form together this risk purchasing group, and now you're able to offer this coverage in a, let's say, in a mobile app later on to people that own Cessnas, planes,
Well, we're seeing what you just said already in the drone world, drone insurance coverage. And you asked about RPGs. And, I was describing it earlier today to someone that, I feel like I'm the quarterback stepping up behind the center and I've got to call some audibles, right? They're not going to let us do this admitted. Surplus lines, check that off. How about captives? How about RRGs? How about RPGs? And in some cases, RPGs are a way to do something non-admitted that would be okay, where you couldn't use a straight up surplus lines transaction. But again, it has to fit into the legal requirements of that. So the RPG, is a tool, just one of the tools in the box as an alternative to a straight up surplus lines placement, which might violate the law where the RPG transaction might not.
I love that analogy. And all I'm seeing right now is Dan Maher stepping into the pocket, hiking the ball. That's what I'm looking at now. How do I keep going here? Because that's what I'm seeing. You step into the pocket and then just seeing all of these different pieces of insurance. That's the pocket. Love it.
Well, hopefully I didn't throw an interception.
Oh, gosh. We're the Giants. Come on. So talk to us a little bit about how the program is going to take place on May 16th and some of the panelists that are going to be there.
Well, we've got some great folks. That was part of what makes this a fun panel and a fun deal. Janet Payne from Willis and Hank Watkins are going to anchor the panel that I'm on surplus lines and InsurTech, and Al Levin, who is a very respected partner at Luck Lord. Alan also has an incredible sense of humor. So as a moderator, I'm not sure that he may just bring the house down and we may not be able to get the crowd to stop laughing long enough to hear anything.
Oh man, I look forward to that.
Larry Schiffer, another, long-term respected attorney in the insurance market, will moderate a panel on reinsurance. You got John Huff, who was with the NAIC, a former commissioner, but now heads the Association of Bermuda Insurers and Reinsurers. He's on a panel with Tom Considine, who was the New Jersey commissioner, and Tom is now the chief executive officer at NCOIL. And so Howard Mills will be also on that panel, and Fran Samaya is participating. So we have a lot of good people that are involved in the program. And it's at the Union League Club. We start at 1:30 on May 16th, Wednesday, and we invite people to register.
And the other thing is that I think you guys have some approvals for credits for continuing ed credits for law and for brokers
as well,
right?
We have the CLE credits for the lawyers and the CE credits for licensed brokers and producers.
This is going to be amazing. I'm so glad that Ted and I are going to be able to join you and join all of these great panelists. And May 16th from 1:30 to 6 o'clock. We're looking forward to it.
In trying to tackle how you deal with InsurTechs and the evolving technology, how are you guys involving that kind of technology, let's say like blockchain, into Alani itself and how you process your work? Because this technology affects everybody. I mean, the stuff that's going on right now, the way technology is moving. So it's not only getting the legislative part right, but how you work with others outside of this. Because if we're all adopting this technology, we certainly want to work with the states, and we would like them to be on that same page, because it will make a difference for you. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we are, trying to always involve ourselves to improve the technology we're using here at Alani. And some of the things we've done, we have a very robust section on our website called Statistics, which we've really automated that reporting process, so that in close to real time, brokers, if they want to know what's going on in the New York market by line of business, by type of coverage, by insurer, by standard industrial code. So Eleni's constantly trying to find new ways to use technology to benefit our members, to leverage the information we receive. We do have a fully electronic filing system, but even that's something that we're constantly looking at, saying, how can we improve it? We have not in any way started to utilize any kind of blockchain. I think that is very much like kind of bleeding edge technology. We're only starting to see parts of our industry say, I think there's ways we can embrace that. At this point, I think we have to recognize that, we're going to outrun our supply line if we try to do something that most of the brokers are not equipped to do yet. And I don't think we usually get ahead of the market that way, because it's not to their benefit for us to have such a high tech platform that they don't know how to utilize it because they don't have the software themselves. So
Right.
it's gonna take a while. It took us a long time to get fully electronic. We're getting to the point where more and more brokers are filing programmatically with us, which means that there's no customer service rep individually keying in the transactions. They key them into their system, and the system periodically pushes the data into our pipeline, signed with an electronic signature, and we're good to go. So we're trying to eliminate some of that duplication of work on the broker side.
Yeah, we at ILSA are already experimenting with the possibility of utilizing blockchain to work with our clients, and then later on to be one of the first to be able to work with the state on that. We're always trying to get the cutting edge. So that's what we're looking at and studying right now.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to it because we're trying to develop something that will help our broker clients in their filings and whatnot. So we're excited about the next few months and, of course, years, but what we're partnering up to work on. So
I'll be looking forward to hearing what you're doing with blockchain. They say a lawyer, the greatest form of flattery to a lawyer is plagiarism of another lawyer's material. So, but it may also work in the insurance business.
Absolutely, we're looking forward to what we can do and things that we can roll out to the industry.
But honestly, ILSA has been plagiarized often by others in the industry, so we're kind of used to it.
Yeah.
But it also kind of tells you where you're at. It is flattering to know that you've set a standard and people are copying it to try to improve what they're doing.
That's well said, Ted. We know that, and by the way, we've had discussions with our fellow stamping offices on a number of occasions, and I've been asked by some, where they said, "Do you mind if we kind of set up some portion of their website similar to ours?" And we're more than happy to have that done. It certainly suggests that my colleagues see us as going in a good direction.
And oftentimes on things like that, right, they can take a portion of what you do best and then they build upon it and make it better and then come back to you and share that with you. So in the long run, we're all getting better. So that's the beauty of it.
That's right. We're elevating each other's game.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Well put.
Dan, you've been around, we've been around for a long time in this wonderful insurance industry. What if you had the opportunity, and you do, to give one piece of advice to someone that is just entering the insurance industry? What would it be?
I think the best piece of advice I can give somebody is to, I don't think you can learn work ethic, but if you have a work ethic, if you have a strong work ethic, there's a lot to learn here. But it's not, you don't have to be Einstein to do well in our business. It's really a matter of working hard, learn the terms, understand, how things work. Don't try something and then try to figure out what the law is on it or regulation. Go find somebody else who's doing something similar, and make sure that you act like a smart carpenter. Measure twice, cut once.
I have one more question for you. If I'm an insurance professional who's been working with New York State, whether it be a lawyer, why should I attend this forum? What's in it for me?
What's in it for you is, number one, it's going to be an incredible networking event, because the turnout and knowing who's already signed up to attend it, you'll have the opportunity to drink through the fire hose if you want to meet with some really top end people, from lawyers in our business to successful brokers to successful underwriters to successful regulators. It will be a heady crowd. But what we're going to talk about is not so much where we are in this business, but where we need to go, where we want to go, and how do we overcome the hurdles. It would be a good experience to hear somebody entering the business and learning about general liability insurance, to know what things might look like in 10 years, because that's when they're going to have the corner offices.
So tell me, am I right in assuming that this is going to be something that might be ongoing?
we are going to try to continue. We intend to do more and more collaborative, programs with, and we hope that this might become an annual program. And I think the success we anticipate would probably cement that. But yes, I think we'll see more and more programs. We want them to be of high caliber. That's the most important thing.
Dan, if someone needs to get in touch with you, get more information, how do they do that?
Okay, Maher, DMAHER @Alani.org, or my direct dial, 646-292-5555.
We will have links to the May 16th Surplus Lines and Reinsurance Forum taking place at the Union League Club. We'll have a link for it in our show notes.
Well, I thank you and appreciate that.
Well, our guest today has been Dan Maher, the Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer of the Excess Lines Association of New York, Alani. Dan, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Dan.
My pleasure as always.
Visit spotoninsurance.com, where you'll discover an ever-growing library of podcasts, videos, articles, and online tools by professionals for professionals to enhance your insurance education. By the way, that's where you'll also find our podcast notes and bonus resources. Please don't forget to click the iTunes link to rate and review, and let others know what you think of Spot On Insurance. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next week.